This is a Wild Games Production podcast.
Welcome to the D&D world.
Meet you by the art room door, in a circle on the hallway floor. I made up a new map last night. It's got a dragon and a wizard fight.
Are we on?
Why do birds?
Is this thing on?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Save or Die Side Adventure 18. And this side adventure, we're going to talk about our experiences at GaryCon. I am DM Carl, and with me is
Courtney.
I'm sorry if I sound a little worse than usual. I do appear to have caught con crud, but I am recovering.
So it all started off with a very long drive from... People know where we live?
Yeah.
Okay, it started off with a very long drive from Central Arkansas straight north to Wisconsin.
Well, I haven't said Central Arkansas. That's too much details. Just kidding. So on the way, we picked up my sister, Sarah Brown, who hosts the YouTube channel You're No Hero, which is about Dungeon Crawl Classics. She was the impetus for us going to GaryCon. We weren't planning on going, but she had planned on going, and at the last minute asked if anybody else wanted to go and share some of the costs. And we decided to go ahead and do it. And so we met up with her, picked her up, and kept on driving north for hours and hours until we made it to Wisconsin.
So we got there Wednesday night, and we're able to go get checked in at the convention hotel, get our bags, badges, all of our stuff that we might need, tickets for games. And then we were able to just hang out and meet people and start getting to know some new friends and visiting some old friends.
And so our first game was on Thursday morning with Paul Stormberg. Paul Stormberg runs really cool Dungeons & Dragons historical artifacts as games at conventions. And we played with him before at North Texas, where he ran a old OD&D module that was running conventions. And he did the same thing here with a different module. It was a Dark Druids module that was originally run in 1975 by Rob Kuntz.
Yeah, that was a really fun game. I enjoyed it. The problem solving that we had to do to find the tools that we needed to defeat the big bad monster at the end. So then we went from there to Tim Cass game, which was neat to be a part of. And it was really a game that required creativity from all parts. The players were able to put a couple ideas down on a card, and Tim turned them into encounters for us.
Yeah, it's a cool idea for a game where your players input the ideas for the encounters, and then the dungeon master takes their ideas and through the lens of the dungeon master's perception changes it to as an encounter. And it was just one after the other, boom, 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 boom. But really interesting to see how he took the ideas of the people around the table and changed them based on his perceptions. After the Tim Cask game, we were scheduled to play actually in a 5th edition game. Ronald Korn, who has been on the show before, was going to run 5e, and I wanted to be able to game with Ron. And unfortunately, his flight was delayed, and he messaged me on Facebook and asked if I would run his game for him. I am by no means an expert on 5th edition. I have ran it before, but I am always up for the challenge. So I sat down with the players that were going to be in his game, explained the situation, and I pulled up a 1 one-page dungeon. I love one-page dungeons. I think the whole concept is fantastic. The one-page dungeon I pulled up was called the Quintessential Dungeon. But I wanted to change it up a little bit because in the program for GaryCon, they had a map of the convention center that was done up like an old dungeon map. It was just begging to be used. So as opposed to using the Quintessential Dungeon map, I used the encounters, but I placed them and added to them and modified them to fit on the convention layout that was shaped like a dungeon map.
Which we have a picture of, so we'll throw that down in the comments or
Yeah, we can
somewhere
do that.
on the internets.
We'll put that in the show notes. That's the phrase.
That's what I meant to say. Alright, so then the next day, this would be Friday, we started the day off with a game with David Conkle. It was a little different than I'm used to playing.
Yeah, it was a modified BX system. So he took BX as a core, and he changed all the classes, and he made it more of a low fantasy, a little bit more Conan the Barbarian. You weren't elves or dwarves or even clerics or wizards.
Right, so I played an alchemist for the first time, which was I loved playing. I actually, I guess, for full disclosure, started off as a buccaneer, and David was so kind to let me switch to an alchemist as I was starting to hoard things. I would see a vat of something, and I would ask, does anybody have a bottle? And I would fill it with whatever was in the vat and keep it with me. It was almost felt like a point-and-click adventure in my mind. Like, I kept seeing things and would collect them, and so he asked me if he said, you're really kind of playing more towards the alchemist. You want to do that? And I said, no, we've already started. I don't want to. And he said, no, it's fine. And so I said, well, let me look at it. And I looked at it, and the different things just that you could collect to make the different potions or poisons or whatever it may be became really interesting to me. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing that, and that was the first time I've ever played that type of character. I'd love to play that again sometime as well.
The module he run was called The Castle at Blackwood Moors. And it's actually based on a choose-your-own adventure book that he wrote. And the book is available now. There is some game system information in the book, but he is working on turning it into a module as well. So hopefully we'll be able to see that in the future.
Alright, and then we played a Castles and Crusades game with the Martins, Jennifer Martin and Mark Martin, and this was a really interesting dynamic. It was Castles and Crusades system. There was 2 tables going at the same time, and we were playing simultaneously, which I've never done before. So what our table, our group, the decisions we made and the information we found out directly affected the other group, and so it added a whole nother level besides one to accomplish your task and defeat, the end monster kind of thing. You also didn't want to screw things up for the other table. Mm-hmm. Like, it just added that whole other level. Like, if we messed something up, you didn't want to mess them up too. But it was a ton of fun. The group we played with was a lot of fun as well. It was just so interesting. I would do that again in a heartbeat. Yeah,
the Martins ran a really cool game, and it was cool because I guess the conceit of the whole experience of running playing in a fantasy RPG is you feel like it's you versus whatever is in the mind of the dungeon master, and so the fact that it was kind of the environment had this other variable to it made it feel more real, more like anything could happen, and you weren't really sure exactly what could or could not modify or throw off the rails or mess up the game.
Yeah, and I guess there's also the potential for the other group to not do their part and mess your side up as well, if you want to look at it that way. But I was really more worried about us not finding something out to help them. So then later, After that, we did gaming to the max this weekend, in case you guys can't tell. Our friend Jesse led a game of Castles and Crusades, and he did a great job. He had a well thought out encounter for us, and it was presented very well. It was a great game, and we had lots of great people to play with, which I think is like 90% of your gaming experience is the people you game with. You know, if they're fun and into it and into the game, it makes the whole thing better, which we had all weekend.
I haven't mentioned this before on the Save or Die at all, but I am on another Wild Games Productions podcast, and it's called The Crusader, and it's a fairly new Wild Games Productions podcast about the Castles and Crusades role-playing game. And Jesse is the another host on that show, and the impetus for that to be started. Because of that, we were able to sit down with some of the guys from Trollord Games and play Castles and Crusades with them, which was a fantastic experience. They were all really good role players. They were the exact right type of gamer, in my opinion, where they take the narrative seriously, but not the game seriously.
So then, that was the end of day 2, which is Friday. Day 3 gaming for us was Saturday. I went and played in a game with a gentleman named Douglas, and he did a great job. Our encounter adventure was in a wizard tower, and we were exploring the wizard tower. The neat thing about this game is it was a game for all ages, and there was 3 kids, a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 9-year-old. There was 8 people at the table total. And all the adults were perfectly fine with the kids playing, understood that some things might have to be changed up for them to play with us. They all did great. You could tell they'd gamed before. The 6 and 8-year-old stamina ran out after about 2 hours, which is still pretty impressive for kids of that age. The 9-year-old hung in there the whole time and really helped the group out. And you could tell that he was into it, which always makes gaming fun, to get that next generation of gamers excited.
Yeah, Douglas Zilsdorf, if I'm saying his last name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not. We've been friends online for a while, and unfortunately I didn't get to meet him at the con, but I'm glad he ran a good game. I wasn't there for the Castles and Crusades game because Saturday, starting at 10 a.m., I started running Holmes Basic Dungeons & Dragons in a jump-in, jump-out Discos and Dragons game, which is the game where I run 1970s D&D using only 1970s miniatures, materials, dice, etc. And it went really well. I had, over the course of 11 hours, 23 players, ages 3 to advanced. And it was just a very exciting time to see so many people sit down and look at these old materials. And it's kind of half game, half historic exhibit, because I talk about the different items I'm placing out. I have Elastilin 40mm toy soldiers that I use for statues, and I have old miniatures as far back as the 1973 minifigs Mythical Earth line, and up to late 70s Ralpartha and Grenadier figures. So it's just cool to have that stuff on the table and actually be playing with it and showing it to people who are interested in the history of the game.
And you even had players from their very first game ever to advanced.
Yes.
And I don't think it was the 3-year-old's first game.
Yeah, the person whose first game it was, they were in the middle of that spectrum. But I'm glad they sat down and had a good time, and I had a great time running it. I run the whole thing on an outdoor survival map populated with Monopoly houses, and you can go from town to dungeon to town and adventure in the world of Ahas, which is what I call the Avalon Hills outdoor survival maps world.
So then, after our gaming excitement was all over, the wonderful daylight savings time adventure kicked in, and we got to drive back home with very little sleep due to daylight savings time and just trying to get back home at a decent hour. Gary Con was awesome. We'd love to go back sometime. Would encourage anyone to go that hasn't been, and we'll see you at the next con, which for us will be North Texas. Peace out.
I feel like I was trying to pontificate on what to say to end the...
You were trying to think about what to say?
Yeah.
Pontificate?
Pontificate, yeah.
You were trying to think.
Pontificate. I was trying to pontificate.
Maybe you should try thinking next time.
Oh, that's not even the right. Express one's opinion in a way considered annoyingly pompous and dogmatic.
Yep, you were trying to pontificate. Would you go back to Gary Con?
Yeah, absolutely. I would prefer to teleport there. I have to find a level 9 mage.
I would prefer for it to not be daylight savings time and not to be like 18 degrees at times.
That didn't bother me. Would you go back to Gary Con?
Yes, I already said I would go back to Gary Con.
Oh, I wasn't listening. I was too busy pontificating.
Yeah, you should pontificate less.
What was I thinking of? It was clearly not pontificate. What's the right word for when you're
Think.
thinking of something? Oh, goodness.
Think is the right word.
I'm not well, woman.
Obviously.
Okay, hold on. There was something I wanted to say.
Are you ready? Have you pontificated enough?
I'm fully pontificated.
It was also really awesome to get to meet listeners.
Absolutely. Anybody who came up to us and talked to us about this show, we really do appreciate all of your kind words, and I really do appreciate your continued listening to Save or Die with the host changes that have happened, and please check back with us in episode 151. And I'm really tired. Not just from the con, but from the con crud, and also daylight savings time.
I think what we've learned here is that Courtney has more constitution than Carl, because I didn't get con crud.
I have the immune system of a homeschooled child. Because I was a homeschooled child. If I went to public school, I could have made it fine.
Whatever.
It's your public school background bonus.
You have the immunity of a weakling.
How do we want to end it?
Peace out, Cub Scout.
That's going to be our new sign-off.
I have a friend that says that all the time.
What if it was Peace Out, Elf Scout?
Thief Scout?
I said
Who
Elf
scouts?
Scout.
I know, but like, who would scout? Ranger Scout?
Ranger Scout. So yes, thank you so much for listening to Save or Die, and we'll see you again on episode 151.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to say Peace Out, Cub Scout.
Oh, peace out, Cub Scout.
Bye-bye.
The Save or Die podcast is a production of Wild Games Production, and it's produced for entertainment purposes only. The music used in the intro and outro is by Tripod and used with permission. Be sure to visit the Save or Die crew at saveordie.info for more information. If you'd like to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/WGP.